Looks like we're,
Okay.
Hey, let me
Switch it back,
perfect.
switch it back so she's the host, and then we're good. Woo-hoo.
all good.
Thank you, Mike,
You're welcome.
and thank you, Ari.
To be all set?
Okay, we're gonna stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Muncie, Sokas, and Monacan people. Please join us in finding ways to support Indigenous communities, and you can see the suggested links on our agenda in minutes. And share any others that you want us to help us expand this list. I'm currently working on reworking this whole thing, and hopefully we'll be bringing it to you soon.
I'm gonna deal with the agenda, just give me a second. Okay, so I removed, 2 items from the business agenda just moments before this meeting because they are covered in that they're listed under the 2 public hearings that we have tonight. So there's no action to be taken except the action that will be taken with those 2 public hearings.
Okay.
And then on this business agenda, we are adding item number 11. It's a retainer letter from a law firm to provide legal counsel to assist the village attorney, Will Frank, and the team at the LaBerge Group with the dissolution plan / government reorganization study that we have been working on. And I move to accept the business agenda as amended. All in favor? I would also, while we're here, like to move the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now, announcement. Do we have someone who's making an announcement regarding the New Paltz Pride Coalition?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that. If you go to newpaltzpridecoalition.org/resources, you will find a really great listing of resources and services. We're constantly updating it. If you have anything to share that we should add to it, please let us know. And as usual, I will make my plea for family of New Paltz. If you want to help your neighbors, please, that's a great way to help your neighbors. It's family of New Paltz. They accept anything from small to large amounts of money in all different kinds of ways. And if you want to donate clothing that is in excellent condition and appropriate for the current weather, they will take that. They will take food, all the things. And speaking of food, the free food fridge is always open here at 25 Plattekill Avenue, next to the front door of Village Hall. Please come and donate food when you can. Don't forget to label the ingredients so everyone can eat what's right for them. And come and take food if you need it. And please, only food in the free food fridge.
Okay, I don't believe that our county legislator is here. We'll hear from Lamina Grace Harmon at the next meeting in March. So other announcements from the village board. Bill, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just that the Saturday from 12 to 3 at Water Street Market is the 16th annual chili cook-off contest. Proceeds go to St. Joe's non-denominational food pantry. Typically they raise about $2,000 to $3,000 each year. It's supposed to be a nice day on Saturday, so please come out and support the chili contest.
And it's always fun.
Any other comments or announcements from the village board? No, so let's move on to public comment. Do we have anyone here in person interested in making a public comment? Do we have anyone online? Pete, go ahead. So We can turn Pete's mic on. Okay, the floor is yours, Pete. You just state your name for the record and where.
Yes, my name is Pete. My name is Pete Calandra. You can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, my name is Pete Calandra. I live at 43 Mill Rock. I've had a meeting with Mayor Rogers about this, my wife and I, back in December. But I sent some materials in via email with a PDF that documents the amount of unacceptable activity that's gone on with the student rental next door to me at 37 Mill Rock. And, there's been stabbings there. There's been suicides or overdoses there. There's been drug dealing there. There's been so much insane stuff. And there's a situation now where one of the tenants there has threatened me, and I made a police report with Officer Bernardson. And I've been trying to get Sam, the owner of the house, who also owns Beacon Automotive, to do something about this, and he ignores my texts. I'm not in New York right now, but it's at the point where you guys have done work to try to protect students and tenants from unscrupulous landlords, right? And I've done some research into the law, and the landlord is responsible for the behavior of his tenants in New York State towards the people that live in the neighborhood. My question is that it seems to me that there are no mechanisms in place to protect full-time homeowners in the village from the effects of a negligent and frankly crappy landlord whose only desire is to extract as much cash out of his rental as possible, with no regards to how his stewardship of his property affects the lives of the people that live around it. We've had our next door neighbor, Margot Jepson. She had to move out because she left, sold her house, moved to Rhinebeck. People in back of us for other student houses have had, like midnight people banging on their door looking for the rent party at the student rental next door. And, Mayor Rogers said that it's better than it was. And yeah, compared to my friends went to SUNY in the late 1970s when I went to the City University, and I was up at their campuses, and yes, it is better. But we have felt unsafe in our house. We felt uncomfortable in our house. And we're feeling like the only solution is for us to leave. We've put $150,000 worth of work into our house to make our little house comfortable for us. We can afford it. It's in a location where we can walk around and do all sorts of stuff. We enjoy the village, but we're feeling like we have no protection at all. Sam ignores me. Whenever he comes over to visit his house, he parks in front of my house, traipses across my front lawn. I've had to pick up used condoms for my front lawn, Pampers from, I could go on and on with the amount of insane stuff that I've had to deal with. I'm unbelievably angry and frustrated at the same time. And I feel like there's no mechanisms to protect us. And I'm begging you to start thinking of ways to do that. I'm not the only person who feels this way, but I'm the only person talking about it. I could talk to 6 people who live around me, and they might not be as passionate as I am about this, but they will all tell you very similar stories. And that's basically it. There should be swift punitive action, real pain to the landlords that don't take care of their properties. Like, there's a statute in New Paltz where if amplified sound is audible 50 feet from the property line, it's too loud. When you look at the penalties, it takes like 8 or 9 complaints before it gets back to the landlord, and everything's just a little slap on the wrist. That doesn't do anything. $10,000-$20,000 fines. And you may laugh and roll your eyes at that, but we're the ones living, not all the time, but more times than is acceptable, a nightmare. It's like some of the things that have gone on have kept me up at night. I was afraid at once for months to leave my wife in my own house in New Paltz to go down to Queens to teach at Queens College. What is that about? We have, and I'm sorry to be almost yelling, but it's incredible. It's been going on for 6 years. When we bought the house, he didn't own it. He bought it like 5 or 6 months after we purchased our house. And from the second his students moved in, it's been a wild roller coaster ride where a month, nice, no problem. And then like that, it can flip and you can have like a nightmare for whatever. So anyway, I've said my piece and I hope that you guys can, seriously consider how you can protect the homeowners, much like you've been working on protecting tenants from bad landlords. And Sam is a bad landlord. He doesn't care about what he does. He paved over onto my property. I mean, I could go, what?
He didn't register his property.
Oh, he never registered his properties, like
They weren't not safe.
they're not, right? You don't even know if they're safe to have students in there. Sometimes there's 12 cars in front of his house next to me from like Friday until Monday. I mean, I could go on and on. It's all in, I've written it all out in that PDF I emailed in. If you want to really, see what our life has been like, my wife and I. So anyway, I don't know what else to say, but if any help that we could get it all, not just us, I'm speaking for me, but I'm telling you that I'm not the only one who feels this way. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll circle back and, we can get together again and speak with you and include the building department and speak with the police department, but, we'll do some follow-up.
I do want to say that we do hear you, and it is unacceptable for people to feel unsafe in their own homes, so we are gonna look into it. I don't know what the solution is, I don't know if there's a great solution, but we're gonna try.
I appreciate that very much. And that's what we're looking for. We don't look, if we end up having to move to get peace and quiet, and we realize we live in a college town, it's going to be a little wacky. We're okay with that. I teach college kids. I know what they're like. It's just that if we're to move, we're going to have to spend all sorts of money. Our expenses are going to go up. This is a wacky time to even think about moving and uprooting your life with what's going on in the federal government right now and how uncertain finances are and the economy and everything like that. And, we're being punished for his behavior of running a business enterprise in a residential neighborhood. And I really appreciate, Tim, that you met with us that time. And, I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, I'm gonna move that we open up the first public hearing this evening. I'm gonna describe what it was. This is a public hearing regarding the sewer project. This was, we have a lot going on. We have a lot of unique details here. So this is the public hearing specifically for the grant award that we received in November of 2022. Stana seconded it. All in favor? Mark, please join us at the table. So we're only talking about the 2022 project
Yes.
right now.
We advertised 2 public hearings tonight. The public hearings are required by the state because if we get grant funding from the Community Development Block Grant Program, we have a public hearing at the beginning when we're looking for money, and we have a second public hearing, which I call a performance hearing, when we are near the end of the project. And we advertise these separately because the state wants them to advertise separately. So we're going to cover the 22 project and the 23 project. The project itself, all these projects we're describing are related to the ongoing consent order that applies to the village's sanitary sewer system. Back in 2003, the village was experiencing problems because of the old sewer mains that allowed a lot of infiltration inflow into the sanitary sewer system through manholes or through the groundwater, whereby what amounts to fresh water is getting into the system. And during thunderstorms or pronounced rainy periods, you can overload the facilities at the treatment plant or in the adjacent lower areas where manholes are subject to overflowing. If you put much more water through the system than it's made to handle. So we've been working through grants to try to replace incrementally one piece after another of the sanitary sewer system to satisfy the DEC. And I've been working on this effort since 2010. And there's two ways to do this. You could raise taxes substantially and replace all the sewer mains at once, but you would be paying for it. So instead, we have incrementally tried to use grants to keep the cost to the public as low as possible by using grant sources. And the other thing we learned is that as you make an improvement with the system, you see how much better the system is. And each year we try to pick some sewer mains that seem to be the prime culprits of what remains in terms of the problem. And we try to go after them. So that's the common theme. The 22 project is more accurately described as 793 PR 16822. That's the project number. The grant was $867,450. We got that money in, I believe, the fall of 2022. And we spent it all. We had a contract with Amity Construction that they were substantially complete in October 2024, and the last payment to them was December 2024. And again, what this project, as others have done, is kept the DEC. They have not fined us any further, because if we did not keep making progress, they could fine us up to $37,000 a day, but they have not fined us again. Now, we continue to have overflows during heavy rain period, which points to the fact that we still have problems to deal with. So we'll all be talking about this effort and another effort, the 23 project, and then later on, I'll be discussing what other projects we're working on in the same, with the same common theme of dealing with the infiltration and flow.
So Mark, I would just add, we have overflows now when we have very large rain events. We don't have overflows anymore when we have medium or smaller rain events, whereas we used to have overflows every single time it rained. And that's a change, and that's something that I was discussing with today with our public works team about, where we can actually see noticeable change because of all of this work.
That's surely evidence of progress. So I'm going to ask that anybody from the public with questions or comments, this is your opportunity. Just a housekeeping matter, we do have a sign-in sheet for the public hearing. If before you leave, you could sign in, we will be asked eventually by the state to show who was at the hearing, and we'll provide the sign-in sheet. There's no requirement that you sign in, but it would be helpful for us if you did. So again, I'm Mark Blauer. I'm a grant writer. I've been working for the town, for the village since 2010. This is one of many projects we've been working on for this same goal. And this is your opportunity to say anything you might want about this effort or anything else related to the sanitary sewer system.
Anybody want to say anything about? No? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move that we close this particular public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I move that we open the public hearing for the project where we received an award in November of 2023.
Thank you, Mayor.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, provide us with the summary of what's going on with that.
This other project's very similar, again, replacing sanitary sewer mains and manholes, some cases relining them, all related to trying to keep infiltration inflow out of the system. As the mayor noted, we're making progress. Instead of having an overflow with every rain, now it's the heaviest rains. So we are making progress in that respect. And eventually, at some point, DEC will decide, based on our progress, that they can lift the consent order. But as it stands now, we have to keep making progress. That project is 793 PR 13123. It was for $857,550. And presently, we've spent all but $112,438. The contractor is Osterhout from Elmville, and they are substantially complete, but for two change orders related to rehabilitating some manholes, in particular on Lincoln Place and Hasbrook Place. Our engineering firm, Grenier Lars, is currently working with H. Osterhout on a change order that would add those two items to the project. The rationale is that we would like to use that remaining $112,000, and making more progress beyond what we originally bargained for is a good way of doing that. So again, this is part of a long-term effort related to reducing infiltration inflow and keeping DEC satisfied and avoiding further fines. We were fined many years ago, and through our good efforts, we have avoided any further fines. Again, this is an opportunity for anybody from the public to ask questions or offer comments regarding our progress.
Anyone from the public want to make a comment? No, please sign the sheet so we have evidence that this was a public hearing and we had people here. I move that we close this public hearing. All in favor? Mark, stay here.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a question, the work being done on such system now, is that part of that 2022?
That's water.
That's water, you can just check.
That TAM, the TAM
Yeah.
trucks, they're from Goshen, that's a water project.
Okay.
Yeah, they're doing South Chestnut and North Chestnut. So we have three other quick things to talk about with Mark tonight. I wanted to use this opportunity since he's here in person, so he could provide us with an update for our sidewalk project. So this is the project where we're gonna replace the bluestone on Huguenot Street. We're gonna put in new sidewalks on Church Street on the eastern side close to Henry W. And then on the western side, on the other side of Henry W. on Church. And then on Prospect Street north of Slate, between Slate and Henry W. Those are the three pieces to this sidewalk project. And we're getting some money from New York State DOT. The village is going to have to make up the difference. And we've also worked with the Ulster County Transportation Council. And they've made sure that there was some money available to help us with this project. Because it's a very expensive project because of the complications involved when you're doing anything that involves federal money and the New York State DOT. So Mark, I'm gonna hand it over to you and you can provide us with a quick question. Did you have a question?
Is that those sidewalks between Mulberry and Henry W. on Church?
You remember us talking about that, that we're gonna get this done, one way or the other, we are gonna drag this sidewalk project across the finish line, no matter how difficult it is.
Okay.
And Mark's gonna,
Yeah, I'll give you a quick summary of all the other
don't,
projects.
Mark does lots of grant administration, and he does not ordinarily do DOT grant administration.
So, let me cover all the other
Because
projects
it's so
that
painful.
we're working on. Bill, you talked about TAM's work very quickly. TAM is working on North and South Chestnut water main replacement. It's the fourth of four contracts related to the Environmental Facilities Corporation's Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant to the village of $3 million that we've been spending since probably 2021 on various contracts related, contracts with Aurors, Merit, Legacy, and now TAM. And that's the fourth of four contracts. It'll be done this spring. We'll get the balance of our grant money, including $500,000 from the county and the remaining $759,000 from New York State as part of paying for that project. So that is winding down. Other projects that are underway, I talked about the small cities sewer projects. We had another project approved in November of this last year, 793 PR 11524. That's $1.5 million for more sanitary sewer work. That's currently under design with Bernier Larios. That's going to be bid this spring. It'll be done later this summer, fall, and maybe a little bit into next year, perhaps, depending on when the restoration is done. Further, we're authorizing another application tonight that will be due in July. That will be for a 2025 project, fiscal year 2025, and more of the same sanitary sewer work. And right now, our tentative streets are John Street, Main Street, North Manheim, Mill Rock, and North Oakwood Terrace. Again, not the whole stretches, but certain discrete parts where there are whole portions of sewer main that are not yet replaced. Again, in the hopes of bringing out that infiltration inflow getting that extra water out of the system. It's costing us in two fashions, enforcement action from DEC, and there's no point treating clean water at a treatment plant. It's expensive enough just to treat the sewage. The DOT project was, designed by, Andrew Willingham last year and put out the bid. We did accept bids late last year. We have an apparent low bidder who's decided, who's willing to hold their price until we get some administrative things done with the DOT. We want to be able to pay for engineering services out of the DOT grant. Willingham Engineering does not wish to be involved as the engineer during construction.
And they're also not on the DOT's list, so even if they wanted to, we
That's
could
right.
not use them and get reimbursed by the DOT.
The DOT is very finicky about what firm you can use. They have to be one pre-qualified by the DOT. They have a very distinct list that you can go to, but we just can't pick somebody off that list. We're going through a process to encourage expressions of interest from pre-qualified firms that the DOT has on its Region 8 list. We're part of Region 8 for DOT. And I'm working on getting a expression of interest solicitation put together that the DOT will hopefully approve soon. I promised them to have something tomorrow. I gave an initial solicitation draft that they found some issues with. They directed me to use a different form. DOT is a bit cumbersome in terms of their bureaucracy, and I'm wading through it with the help of Nicole and the mayor and Blue and Nancy, trying to pull this together so that we will solicit for engineering firms that'll give us expressions of interest, things of those as essentially glorified resumes. Then the village board will review them and pick which firm is most advantageous to the village. Who do you like the best? And then we, with DOT's permission, will negotiate a specific contract with that firm. And later this year, get the DOT to approve the engineering contract so the engineer can advise us on awarding a bid to the low bidder, hopefully from the bid process that we undertook last fall, and then oversee the contract with the firm to do the sidewalks, and lastly, to provide construction inspection services in accordance with the DOT way of doing things. And to give you a very quick idea, I tend not to work with DOT too much because they're a little bit more bureaucratic than some other agencies. And I've only worked with them a handful of times. And for example, the whole process of getting an engineer is very structured. With our sewer projects, it's a lot simpler. So we are, as the mayor said, we are going to soldier on and get this done and get an engineering firm that they have on their list to do our work and get the project done.
Right, so, I want to highlight that it is challenging to muscle through the DOT process. But from my experience, the people who work at the DOT are very accessible and regularly helpful. And they're always willing to help us navigate and problem solve. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression that the individual staff are difficult. It's just, this behemoth of a process that involves federal money just complicates everything. But even when I was a brand new mayor and I would go and ask them questions, they were always like super helpful and resourceful. So Mark just basically did the 3 items on this business agenda. One is the DOT sidewalk project, we provided for the summary. 2, we provided for the summary that we're doing the design work for the sewer project that was awarded in 2024 for $1.5 million, and we hope to put that out to bid this year. We'll probably do construction next year. And then the 3rd item on this business agenda is our preparation to apply in 2025 for another sewer grant. We're gonna keep our fingers crossed that we're successful. So I have a resolution where I'm motioning that we hold the public hearing on April 9th for this application. Does someone want to second it? All in favor? Aye, and then I'm also going to move that we authorize advertising for engineering services for this 2025 CFA CDB project. Someone want to second that? All in favor? Aye. I think that's all we need to do tonight, correct?
Yes,
We'll get your question back.
yeah, just to emphasize that the people like Giselle and, I think there's a Mr. Murphy at DOT or Mr. Kelly. They've been splendid to work with, but they've got a very cumbersome process from the federal DOT that they have to implement at the state level. And they themselves, they have to jump through a lot of hoops to make this work as well. The engineering selection we're doing, that we authorize now, is we're advertising for engineering services for a project not yet submitted, not yet awarded, but if we get awarded in November, we have that process out of the way.
And this is back to sewer.
That's right,
Yeah.
back to sewer. And,
Need subtitles.
yeah, what's been helping us a lot compared to some other communities in this competition the last few years is we've been giving the state with the small cities program, the CBG program, everything they asked for. We have the engineering procurement done by the time we apply, and we have our environmental assessment, including compliance with NEPA and seeker, done by the time we apply. So, and we've also demonstrated, and they've acknowledged this, that they have a requirement that you try to get out to bid within 6 months of award. And last year, we jumped through all the hoops perfectly when others did not. Others didn't meet that, we did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we do a lot of things right as a local team, but I want to give you a public shout out and thanks because you can also look at who gets awards in New York State. And it's generally communities that have hired Mark Lauer as their grant writer. So we're also going to be applying for grants so we can clone Mark. Adele, what's that?
Are there any grants to extend the village sewer where there is none? For example, on South Chestnut Street after Southside Avenue to the end of the village, which is around the VFW. There's no village sewer there.
I thought that every part of the village was.
It's not every part.
Okay.
There's some that.
How many properties are there?
5 maybe?
5. The program we're working with I&I could do that, but if it was a standalone project just for 5 properties, not gonna be that.
They're commercial properties.
Okay,
It might be like an Empire State Development
yeah,
grant opportunity, like if they think it's related to economic development.
if you could show some job creation benefits, someone's willing to hire some firms, how many residences are there?
None.
None.
That I know of.
That's kind of if we went to the same small cities program for economic development project, provided that we could get committed jobs to be created, it's worth talking to them. They have an open round each year for economic development projects, but as the program we're using right now for I&I, just to extend the sewer for about 5 properties, not particularly competitive. There's a whole issue of, is it eligible? Yes. Is it competitive? Maybe not. And what makes us competitive right now is the fact that we have a consent order, plus we have a sterling reputation for getting things done.
Right.
The village staff has, really shows a admirable attention to detail for all the things they have to do that is not evident with other communities at times. The staff here is particularly good at getting things done. That's why we tend to do well with this process, because when they give us money, we spend it properly and quickly.
Yeah. The grant force like, those grant force like.
They like no problem communities.
Yeah. Okay, thank
Thank
you. So affordable housing board members are joining us. Is David Shetler online or is he coming? Because I thought he was.
Yeah, so did I. I'll check.
There's nobody.
Can I take this chair? So we go. Absolutely, yes. Adele's very.
So do you know what's going on, or do you need us to explain it?
Yeah, why don't you give us like a 20,000 foot quicker description just for the community, but I'm completely aware of what's going on, yeah.
I'm sorry, so I could get it wrong, but you'll correct me, I'm sure. Your place is going condo. And they are gonna be selling all of their units. And there are currently five affordable units there. They are asking permission because they're still under those 5 units, even if they sell, will still be under the affordable housing law and will have to be sold at the affordable housing rate. So they're asking if they can get permission to list the house, the apartments at market rate because they have the possibility of getting funding for the difference between the affordable rate and the full rate. So it was a question we wanted to discuss with the attorney. Is the attorney here? I don't know. No, so we wanted to talk.
I spoke with our attorney.
Okay, and there were questions that came in from our chair, the chair of the Affordable Housing Board, who's not here. But that's the gist of it, you know, can they do that? It saved them a lot of money. I have a couple of ideas. I don't know if you want to hear them now. You may have a couple of ideas. I don't really know. One of the concerns I know that we all have, and Terry asked about our chair, was what happens to the tenants that are there, that are renting, that cannot afford to buy, even at the affordable rate. So he wasn't sure, David was at our meeting, he wasn't sure, and
But that's been resolved, they can stay,
they can stay, yes.
indefinitely, even if they don't wanna buy, they can rent.
As long as they qualify, right? As long as
They have to
qualify.
continue to qualify.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, and then what happens when they leave? Then what he's requesting is that he listed at market rate, but allows an affordable rate. And so what I'm suggesting is if someone is, just as an example, if someone is paying the affordable rate, he's getting $2,400 a month or $2,600 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and the affordable rate is half that, let's say, for argument's sake. That person cannot afford to buy a house, even at the affordable rate, probably because they can't get a mortgage. So considering the permission that we might give him to do this will save him $1 million. Why doesn't he hold a mortgage for these people? You following me?
Yeah, but it's a program, so
It's a program,
they're
but-
gonna find.
they're gonna find someone to give the
Some
difference.
people who qualify.
Yes, well,
Right.
I think the idea of qualifying
You
Under
can't sell
our-
it to-
under
you can't
our
sell
rule-
it to someone who doesn't qualify.
under our rule, well. In our rule, everyone qualifies under a certain, but we don't have a bottom, right? We only have a top. So anybody, if you make $5,000 a year, you're gonna qualify for an apartment. We're just not gonna have them,
Sure.
right?
Well, you have to qualify and be willing to.
To pay
Pay,
that
right.
rent. So I thought if maybe he would be willing for that amount of money, he or them, they can hold a mortgage for someone that might be able to pay. It might benefit that person.
But we can't mandate that.
But we can tell him that he can list it at market rate, and where's our guarantee that he's gonna abide by
Because
that?
it's a federal program.
He didn't say that to us.
I mean, it's a program, I mean, he's coming here in person.
So I didn't realize it would be at the beginning of the agenda on my way.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what can he do to help these tenants become owners?
But I also wanted to just get on the public record, they've already established the fact that these will be converted into condos. And this is purely just a request for them listing it at the rate, but then having a little asterisk saying that it will be sold at the affordable rate, not stating what that rate is. And I think we just wanted to ensure that if there is, just because this is the first time this was presented to the board at all about the whole transition, I think it kind of caught us a little off guard. But I think the two main things are making sure we're all legally good with the whole listing is one rate with the asterisk not providing the affordable rate. And then also
Provide the affordable rate because they don't know what person, how the person qualifies.
yeah, so just speaking from what the board said last time, I think just not having a value, we just want to make sure it's legally okay.
I don't think it works that way. So there's gonna be an affordable rate. It's going to be a certain percentage of what the table is, and that's gonna be the rate. It isn't gonna be what you're
It's
gonna
not
have.
gonna involve by the person's unique.
No, I mean, whether or not they
situation.
qualify for a mortgage is a different thing,
Absolutely.
but that's different than whether or not they qualify under our guidelines. And our guidelines,
Okay, so David, we have a question about
Yeah.
how this program works, in terms of the currently affordable unit will be listed for sale, will be listed at a market rate.
No.
But, I mean, just, so, all right, then, just help us understand.
Yeah. The unit will be, what I'm referring to is the way that it's listed in the offering plan, which is something that is circulated to the state, the state attorney general's office for approval of the condominium. It will not be listed in, the public domain on realtor.com or whatever as the market rate thing. It's just to establish with the state attorney general what these would sell for if they were market rate units. And further explaining that they're not going to be sold at market rate units, but instead will be sold under the affordable housing law of the building law for the following rate as described in the memo that I circulated to you guys.
So
Did I answer the question?
this program
Yeah.
is then part of a program that's administered by the New York State Attorney General's office.
The condominium establishment process is administered by the Attorney General's office, the New York State Attorney General's office. That's what establishes these entities.
yes, but I think that the question, if you can correct me, is these particular units. You may qualify for some grant or something that's going to pay the difference between the affordable rate and the market rate. Is that correct?
Well, we hope to, there's no guarantee
Okay.
that they're gonna, we would be applying for these subsidy programs that exist that will pay,
Federal?
that-
That was the question.
no, these are state.
Okay.
That would allow us to receive subsidies somewhere between the purchase price of the affordable unit as it actually sells to the qualified affordable housing buyer. And what the market rate would be if they sold at market rate, somewhere in there. There's no guarantee that it would be that entire delta or a half of that delta, or we have to see but this would allow us to apply for those subsidies.
So my concern about that, we've already talked about the fact that the renters can stay.
Yeah.
As long as they qualify until they're leave.
Right.
But my concern is if you have a purchaser who can only qualify if they're under the guidelines of the Affordable Housing Board, which I think I don't know what the purchase guidelines are, but let's say 60% of whatever.
It's the same.
And so, okay, so 60%.
Mhm.
But a bank isn't gonna give them a loan because they don't make enough money for even $100,000, which may be the affordable rate. I don't know what the affordable.
But the way this is this is entirely in this issue of whether they can afford, can qualify for a loan or whatever, has nothing to do with the way this is listed in the condo offering plan.
Yeah, but I think what Adele's trying to understand is like, so it sounds like the program makes a great deal of sense, but then how does it work realistically?
Right.
So if someone qualifies
Yeah.
and they're very interested in buying a property, how do they get a mortgage?
Well,
And then what
I'm
happens
not
if-
an expert.
Right, but what happens if they can't,
They
then?
can continue to rent indefinitely.
Right, so but here's, I guess, you know, like, I'm
No,
trying to
no.
understand the what if, right? So like,
Sure.
let's say. You know, just for the sake of argument, all the current residents, you know, stay for a certain number of years and then all choose to move on, right?
Right.
So then you have unoccupied apartments that are for sale.
Yeah.
They have to be sold to people who qualify
Right.
per our local affordable housing law.
Right.
So. You know, how realistic is it that they're successful and able to go get a mortgage, and then what happens
Oh,
if they
they don't.
can't?
If they can't sell, first of all, there are programs that will, as we've understood, that will help people who qualify under affordable housing laws across the state. There are programs to assist them in the purchase of homes, and so, but setting that aside, if they don't sell, then we would just have to continually maintain them. And, you know, we have no choice but to continue to offer them. We can either sit there and try to sell them forever, or we can put people in them. And
I guess you could rent them out.
Yeah.
To people who
Or you
qualify.
could
That's
have
right.
a mortgage for someone. I'm just saying.
Well, maybe, but that's not really the purview. I mean,
You're saying, I know, but it's all, but I'm looking at what our concern is.
Yeah.
Our concern are the affordable people who need affordable housing.
right.
It'd be great if they could buy, it would be awesome if they could buy. But I don't see how that's going to work for them.
Right, but just to be very clear, I'm not asking for anybody's permission to pursue a condominium for this property. That's not that's not.
I'm not gonna ask you to.
Yeah, okay, so it's really, I mean, I'm happy to have the conversation to tell you what I know about these things. But it really doesn't bear on the specific request I have, because whether we receive this, you know, authorization from you or not, we are potentially moving forward with. It's
Yeah,
not- it
and
doesn't
it's
impact-
well, but what I'm saying, if you can understand what I'm saying, where I'm coming from, it's a benefit to you. You may say it's no skin off your back to sign this, right? Do it, it doesn't matter. And I'm saying, maybe if you could help some of these tenants in some way, be able to afford these units in the way of purchase, that it would benefit them too. And that's our concern. I'm not saying don't go condo or don't, of course you're doing this. But what I'm saying is that these people deserve the same chance as the renters do to have the opportunity to purchase. And I don't see how someone making $40,000 or $50,000 is gonna be able to purchase a unit. And you don't care, you don't care, it's not what you're asking us, but I'm asking you to do something for us, I'm gonna say us. And we,
You're making a lot of assumptions when you ask me, hey, can you go out there and be a bank and provide somebody a mortgage? It's like, you have no idea what the circumstances are with our financials around this building. You have no idea what my personal finances are. And frankly, I find it a bit presumptuous for you to ask me to do something like that.
it's a question.
As I told you before, we care a hell of a lot about these tenants. And we're gonna do everything we can to give them access to the programs that exist and to try to make this as painless for them as possible. And if they don't wanna buy these units, they can stay, as I've shared with you, indefinitely.
I understand, and no one's asking you to dig in your pocket because you just said something like, well, they'll stay empty and we'll have to take care of them. So it might be something good for you too. I'm saying,
Yeah, maybe
you don't
it
have to
is.
pay a bank
Yeah.
to do it. You own it. So holding a mortgage doesn't mean you're gonna be writing a check to them. I don't think. I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit, but it's just something maybe that you can think about so that our applicants can get a little bit of benefit and they don't have to feel that they're getting pushed out the door.
So I think a big part of this is also just the fact that within the Affordable Housing Board law, it has been established kind of the guidelines for home ownership, but I don't believe they've been exactly written out. For instance, I don't believe we have income guidelines or anything. They might be available, but from what I saw in the code, in terms of kind of ownership under affordable housing, there's just some work that needs to be done, which is completely separate from this issue. But this was the first time the idea of rentals being converted to owned units was presented to us. And I think the board members might have just kind of, this is the only outlet we have for something like this. This is something that has not happened before, and we just want to make sure we keep our eyes on it. But we understand you're going to do everything we can to help these people. It's also not your responsibility to act as a bank for them, but we just want to make sure if there's anything we can do for them, we will. And it sounds like you're on the same page.
But I think, Dylan, you bring up a good point, and it's probably valuable to remind everyone how, like, the village wrote this local affordable housing law, and it wasn't perfectly written, right? We learned a lot about the process, actually, when we were looking for tenants to occupy Zero Place. So the process has improved. So like the next building that comes online will probably be an easier process for the Affordable Housing Board.
Absolutely.
And for the developer and for the prospective tenants, like everyone involved, because there's been, you know, some experience that's been.
Totally.
gleaned. So I think it's a similar situation here, in that, you know, the law mentions that, you can either, you know, provide rental properties or condos, and it's like 60% of MHI, whether it's either one, but, you know, in terms of the nuts and bolts and how it will work, those are details that have to be fleshed out. And they will be fleshed out, like in some ways, like, because this is, again, you know, the first swipe at, you know, trying to provide affordable condo units. You know, a lot of those details will probably be, you know, gleaned during this process.
There's a lot of questions with that. What happens if someone buys it and then moves to the city and rents it? I mean, it's a lot of things. Who's monitoring that? They're not.
Well, it's in the
condo
deed,
board
it's in the deed,
that they can't rent it.
yeah.
Mhm.
They
All
would be,
these
they
things.
would be in violation of probably a variety of things, like our local law, and probably an advantage too of green lighting this program that is gonna be administered by the state's attorney general's office. It's like, then you probably have another regulatory. agency
That
involved.
huge abuse, right?
Yeah.
Because that person is qualified to occupy that unit, and now they're leveraging that to make a buck.
So, and not only that, I mean, you have to.
I think that's actually a great reason why we want to formalize this and make sure that the offering plan is listed with the.
And they can only sell it for a certain amount, right? Because that
Yes,
sell it
it's-
to an
it's part of
affordable
the
rate.
deal. It's part of the-
So they're not gonna make much money
Like any other
because
business,
it's gonna
they're
go up
gonna
2% a year. Right?
Forever.
If you think about it, because if they buy something, I'm gonna say 100,000, it's an easy number. And they're gonna have to sell it at the affordable rate, and the affordable rate probably goes up a couple of percent a year. They can own it for 10 years and maybe they can sell.
Yeah, but it's all relative. They
Yeah.
bought it for less, they sell it for less.
Yeah.
I mean, the advantage
I'm
of, the
just-
advantage of home ownership, which I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. I'm
You're
sure
saying it's in the deed.
it's in the deed.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, because like, you probably know real estate better than anyone in this room, but like, it's a forced savings plan, right? That's the advantage of having people, you know, put money towards the equity of their home, whether they, you know, whether it's a market rate value or like an affordable rate value. So in a way, you are assisting the property owner by, when they leave, they're gonna sell it, and then they're gonna walk out with some equity, whereas if they're strictly renting, they leave and they have nothing. Unless they were disciplined enough to, you know, put money in, you know, some other investment opportunity.
That's okay,
And,
so,
and there are just, my partner has been doing affordable housing for decades. And I know I can understand the concern that folks would tend to not normally qualify to purchase affordable housing units. But that does exist in this state, and my understanding is it's through these programs that allow for that. And so these tenants, this first wave of tenants are in the optimal place. Where then if they want to enjoy home ownership, they're gonna have that opportunity, and with the assistance of these programs. And if they can't qualify or they don't wanna do that, they can stay forever. So long as they continue to qualify under the affordable housing. So they're like, oh my goodness,
Do we want to ask Terry's question?
We've been discussing Terry's. I was gonna say number 4, kind of just related to the fact whether if in the future owners of the normal units could rent those out, would that be something for the affordable ones where we could prevent that, which is kind of what we just talked about, saying that affordable units, the owner can't rent them out if they do end up buying it. I'm sure they would, yeah, so.
Yeah, what's interesting is could they rent them out to a
an affordable,
qualified affordable housing?
Yes, number one.
Then they're gonna have to go back to, we're gonna
I
go
mean,
back to
all
the
that-
village
with that-
affordable housing board.
that's
Yeah.
the question, do they come back to us?
I don't know that we have any, but I don't know that we wanna build in another scenario. I don't think we wanna create a situation where there's
You want
something.
that kind of balance?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, do we want to go through 1, 3, 4 real quick?
Sure.
So I'll just read them out on behalf of each chair. So number 1, say that the resolution of approval for Zero Place has a special condition that any changes to the affordable units requires planning board approval. Does this conversion apply?
There's no change to the affordable units, they're staying affordable.
Yeah, so that's a no. The affordable housing ordinance requires that any new development for sale in excess of 20 units requires a 15% set aside for affordable. Does this apply to the conversion?
No, because it already.
We can't
do it twice.
No.
Yeah.
retro approvals.
And then third one is, what is the mechanism to ensure the affordable units will remain under the jurisdiction of the village, whether for rent or sold in perpetuality? Perpetuity.
It's in the deed and I confirm
Yeah.
that's a charge.
Yeah, so that's.
So I think that's what's interesting, right, is that there's a deed restriction on this rental property right now. There's no deed restrictions on the individual units, there will be.
Okay, so I think that's all the board was worried about, just because they wanted to kind of make sure it wasn't going under the radar, but it sounds like these are being addressed and more, so.
Yeah, there's no backdoor here.
So, and, when you do the structure, I know you know I'm a stickler with this amenity thing. I just don't wanna go through the word salad of why this is included and that isn't. It will be different when it's condo. That condo owners of any kind will be able to use the amenities without having to pay more money. Is that part of this?
No,
You're gonna have an HOA fee, right?
no, yeah.
It will be.
There's an HOA fee. And it's a good question, actually, whether the HOA fee,
Will be discounted for the affordable units?
yeah, or whether the amenities are rolled into the HOA fee. Or not, because right now, effectively, the gym, for example, that is a commercial space. That will remain a commercial space and effectively sold gym services to the condominium. So I actually don't know the answer to that, as to how the HOA fees will be constructed for the affordable units. Because there's some questions there. As I explained to you, just to show you the complexity, as I shared in that email, right now, I guess you probably weren't aware of this. The affordable units get free water, free electric, free television, free Wi-Fi. And you know why that is? It's because we have bundled all of that into the rent, and we can establish the market rate rent to somewhat accommodate for all those services that we are paying for. But because the affordable units are capped at the affordable rate, they effectively get all of that stuff free. The one thing that we had some control over is the gym, which was an extra cost. Right, and so that is part of the amenities, and that's why we did it that way, but when you say the affordable units are treated differently, look at both sides of that equation. They're getting hundreds of dollars a month at no cost to them. Give me one other example of that anywhere.
Well, when utilities are included, it's the same, right? Anywhere that utilities are included, that's what it is.
But I think the difference though is like if you had the exact same building somewhere else where the utilities were not included, the affordable units would have to be the same price.
But
And
there's a
then those
different rate.
tenants would get a utility bill.
We adjust for that in what they can charge as rent. It's right, I wish I had the law with me, it's adjusted on our grid. If rent is included, it's this much, if utilities are included, it's this much, utilities are not included, it's
Okay.
this much.
And
So
and do those utilities include Wi-Fi? Do they include
It says
television?
utilities.
Do they?
So it's gonna be
This-
heat, water, and electricity. Yeah, but I want, before we get too off track.
Yeah, how do you quantify that?
Yeah. But I wanna just talk about the whole condominium conversion thing. One of the concerns we brought up was just. And the idea of how decisions are made and things are maintained, just ensuring that the affordable units are. Because it's going to be as a condominium, kind of as a group of owners, like collectively working to maintain public property or like public spaces and everything, and we just want to make sure, like, we don't know, or we like to know who's gonna like facilitate that kind of group of owners, or is it gonna be completely?
The owners
The
would,
condos issue.
the owners would, so can can a resident of an affordable unit run for the condo board?
Sure,
Yeah, and that's just something.
they're owners just like anybody else.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not treated, there's no star letters, they're not treated any different. Other than the fact they must, what's it?
Qualified.
Right, yeah. What's an interesting situation, hang on. We'll probably have a lot of learning as we go through this. I'm sure there will be a lot of learning, and we'd love to kind of like keep an active dialogue with you guys. So all we're asking for is help us qualify for the available programs that are in the state for exactly this purpose.
David, could you send us some links to us about those programs? I'm not familiar with them. You can background, we can read.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, we're not making a decision, there's two of us here.
Yeah, I mean, our only concern was, things related to it primarily, and then. This offer plan is gonna be presented to the tenant at some point, right? Yep, and at that point, they can ask what the price is.
That's right.
Because,
see it.
well, they won't see it because it has an asterisk like imported to the affordable housing law and will be sold at rate. But from what.
And that rate will be shared.
Okay, from the piece of paper you showed us, I thought it was basically saying a listed rate. And then it was saying that in accordance with affordable housing laws, it will be provided at affordable rate. I didn't see any affordable number, and that was the only concern we had.
Yeah.
Because it would be presented to the tenants.
Yeah, we would like to show them what the rate is at the time at which the operating plan is certified. I'd have to look at the specific thing, but
That's the only concern, I think, that we realistically have that would cause any type of problem.
right, because that number can change, right, from year to year. But if we have the 2024, 25 number now, we can ensure that that's there.
Yeah, so from the perspective,
I think
no, I don't see any issue with this, but I'm not a lawyer, so. But.
So to state program, do you need some sort of like green light from the village affordable housing board or what are you looking for?
we're looking for just a memo that approves that we can list it in the way I indicated in that memo. I don't have the in front of me, but. So it
When
just
you
needs,
plan to put this application or whatever, put your whole package in,
like, any day now. This is why I submitted this request back in January. Yeah. we need it, you know, we could possibly amend this thing later. But I've gotta get this thing in, I gotta get it started.
Can you receive an approval from the village board, or it has to be from the Affordable Housing Board?
That's really a question for the, you know, it's all we need is an authority of the village of New Paltz
Oh,
to be
okay.
able to do this. It's really, whether it's the Affordable Housing Board that does it or the
Do
village.
you want to
board.
take an unofficial straw poll? Like, how are you guys feeling about this?
Well, are we like with open meetings and everything, are we good with making decisions for the portal?
We can't make a decision.
I know, but we can do a straw poll. We can talk about this.
Well,
You're not making a decision. We would be making the decision.
Are you sure?
Yes, because you're not gonna call the question.
I have no issues as long as the tenants are presented with, at that time, what they would pay. Which, yeah, the documentation I saw was probably like a place filler or something like that, but
Yeah,
as long as they're presented with the dollar amount, I don't think there's any issue.
we'd absolutely assure that.
So I am all for it.
Do you have any other concerns you wanna?
So my concerns is, as you know, the equality for all the tenants under, that everybody gets treated the same. I know you think they are, but I don't think they are, and I'm hoping that that may change and get better once it's a condo. And that maybe you can, you know, give us information of where these tenants can qualify. You said your partner knows where. That if he can supply us with this information and that and tenants, if it's really the case that tenants will qualify to be owners, I would be okay with it. But we don't have that yet, so maybe that can happen in the next few days, we can look it over, I would be better about that.
I mean, we're just sitting here as a village authority that can vote on something.
I understand,
If you're feeling like it's, like, you feel like there's like unanswered questions.
but that can
then-
happen in a day or two, we don't have to wait a month, right? Those are the unanswered questions for me.
So,
And I don't know about Terry, and the only other question was Mr. Garofalo wanted to know about monitoring, but you said that's not gonna really happen. It's all gonna be in the deed, right?
so we could move forward with an approval pending,
I guess,
additional information.
yeah, I think the big thing is just ensuring that either you guys or we work together to facilitate whatever this process is, but it sounds like you're fine with that. So as long as you're willing to say that either through the board or through us, that we find avenues for affordable ownership assistance, that's fine. I mean, there's not much else we can do except show them the program, help them with the application and.
And, you know, and maybe still consider, you know, offering them a way to have ownership. Not by writing a check. But
Who's drafting this memo?
What memo?
Are we supposed to provide you with?
No, all we would be doing as a board is just basically providing like a green light that we're comfortable with I guess it's the sample language for a condo,
Okay.
a condo
Yeah.
plan, where it's listed with the New York State Attorney General's office.
But I think it has to be written in.
Yeah.
In the fact that, you know,
Oh,
the fact that there's gonna be disaster.
It's their plan.
Right.
It's their plan.
I know, I understand.
We're not writing a plan. All we're doing is we're saying that there is this condo offering plan in existence, and we're okay with you pursuing the state's program.
Yeah, and you,
I mean, that's,
you don't even need to say. Okay with pursuing the state program, that's the consequence of it, is that we're able to do that, but you don't have to exclude, you know.
but I thought you did need a green light from the village authority.
The only thing I explicitly need is the authority to. Use the language that I provided as an example, it doesn't have to be that, we can speak it in charter, for example, that. You know, anyway, that language is used in the offer. That's all you have to. that we can use that in our New York, Attorney General's offering.
I'm sorry, we can use which language?
That we are, that the zero place owners
Yeah,
are authorized to use the language that I gave in that memo.
right.
In our condominium offering.
And you're suggesting, Tim, I think that this is a conditional approval. Pending some information that we're gonna get.
I'm fine with that. I mean, is the rest of the board fine with that?
Okay,
Okay.
so, all right, I'm just gonna write to Terry tonight and. He's our chair. He'll respond, yeah, I know it's vague, but he'll respond
It has like unit A, B,
on
and C.
what we would like.
I don't think it basically just says that it will be provided.
They should get something,
It doesn't provide any indication of what that is.
some benefit, right now, there's no benefit.
Because it may not be known at the time.
Of
You know,
course,
it wasn't, but we can.
As long as it's established in the actual law.
Yeah, let's discuss one at a time, we can't do.
Yep,
Yeah, I can adjust that language to. Include the actual price that. The maximum prices that we were given by the Affordable Housing Board.
I think we should take a day or two to submit questions for a day or two and. You can get a conditional approval because they don't meet for 2 more weeks, right?
You are,
And then the next day or two, we'll get some questions and get them answered. Satisfactorily.
but then, so if we do this conditional approval, you're looking at more details, how do we?
I don't think there'll be more details than what we discussed, but I think we should go through it with our chair. And see if he has anything else after what we discussed. I mean, everybody's saying, no, that's separate, this is separate, it might just be nothing. I don't know, it could be nothing.
Okay, and so what happens if the chair says it's something? What's the mechanism? What's the next step? Then we're not providing the authorization?
Well, it depends what it is, don't you think?
Right, but
I mean-
in my what if it's something that he wants to pump the brakes, so then we're just.
It did, it
removing our
doesn't sound like this from his questions, it didn't sound like that, so. If he has some kind of epiphany while he's away, I
Okay.
just don't think that's gonna.
Based on the questions he gave us, there aren't any concerns that are still
But
outstanding.
I still.
Yeah, no, I have to read the questions, yeah.
Yes.
So,
So I just think, yeah, I mean, what if something major? Well, then something major, what can I tell you?
Okay.
I highly doubt it.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that we approve the proposed sample language that would be included in the condo offering plan listed with the state's attorney general's office. And it's conditionally approved, providing that the the remaining members of the Affordable Housing Board are okay with this.
Second.
In favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay. There we go. Thanks for being so involved in this too. Yeah, we're all cutting our teeth and you guys are. Thank you for doing the hard work.
Thank you.
You wanna jump in here, Mike? Sure. We're gonna go back and do items 5 and 6 and 7. Jeez.
So.
Bounce around. I loved it.
So I included in your packet a draft local law to amend the current subdivision code. For a little background, what this deals with is, my experience, we call them lot improvements. It's also called lot line adjustments. It's anywhere you have contiguous lots that exist where the bounding lines between them is either changed or completely removed. So at the end of the day, whatever number of lots you're starting with, you're ending up with the same or less. Either combining or some combination. It's not really a subdivision because you're not creating any new lots. A lot of municipalities have this similar practice. I did look at what the town has. The town actually mentions mergers as not being considered subdivisions, but they do say that any change to lot lines is considered a subdivision. So the way I read their law is if you're merging two properties, you just do it and file it with the county. It's not a subdivision, but if you're changing lot lines, you do still go. A lot of boards have changed this. What I'm proposing is a straightforward process, but the planning board still touches it. In that it gets referred to the planning board as a lot improvement. They review it. They don't issue an actual approval. What they do is they certify it, saying that the end result meets the village zoning standards for setbacks, density, all those above. Then they sign it with that statement that says, you know, we're certifying that this is okay to be filed with the county. Usually in that situation, you waive the public hearing. There's very little to be gained from input from the public, if anything. The reason I bring it up is, in my experience, since I've been here and looking back historically, you've had one true subdivision application in the last 2 to 3 years. Since I've been here in May, we've had 5 of these. And we have to treat these like subdivisions because that's our only recourse. And everyone has been approved. Everyone has not had a single public comment. So I think this is just one of those things that can be simplified. It's more a procedural thing. I did include natural subdivisions, what those are, and I don't know for certain if we even have any in the village. We may. That's where a public roadway divides the property, but the same parcel is on both sides of the road. With a natural subdivision, because that roadway is cutting through the property, you're now allowed to make a parcel on either side if you choose to. Nobody's gonna do it in a tiny, tiny little piece because they can't do anything with that individual piece anyway. So, and then the third part is anybody who re-subdivides their lands, our code doesn't really clarify how it should be reviewed. So what I'm proposing is that in a re-subdivision, it's viewed however the original subdivision was done. So you don't have a major minor differentiation, but per se, but if it just has to follow the same process. So if you think that this is worthwhile, there's 3 resolutions that would go along with it. You know, certainly if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you want to move ahead with the resolutions, this would have to get referred to the county planning board. I would recommend that if you are going to set it for public hearing, you set it for your April 9th meeting. And we would refer it to the county for their April 2nd meeting. You get their comments back by the April 9th meeting, and then you could have a public hearing and potentially adopt it that night, if you chose it.
It feels like a no-brainer to me, like we need this.
It's a small bite at the apple. It's not a significant change, but it will make people's lives a little easier. You would establish an application fee. I would recommend maybe $150 for this process. It's gonna be a 1 meeting thing, a little bit of attorney's time. So,
How often does a re-subdivision happen?
In the village, probably rarely, but if you have a map subdivision plat.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to then further subdivide one of those parcels. The filed plat then is no longer valid, so it's more again a procedural thing. I mean, we could certainly, I included it just while I was kind of going through my templates of codes. You know, my computer is filled with templates of codes, and it's something that we don't have, and I thought, well, I'll add it in. You know, in reality, probably never, or occasionally. Cause I don't think you have that many that were original subdivision maps anyway. So. Anybody have any sort of questions, or if not? Yeah, we're good. So,
Yeah, thanks. So we need to take
yeah, if you would, the three resolutions that are in that one link would be the three to take one at a time. And I don't know what the local law number is. Nancy can tell, or Nicole can tell us what that number will be for the next local law, but.
okay, so can we move 8A, or do we have to move A, B, and C all together?
Yeah, you do one, you should do them one at a time,
Okay.
the three separate laws.
I move that
or
we,
resolutions.
Approve resolution, list them for 8A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve 8B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve 8C.
Second.
You'll have to set the date for that though.
Oh, sorry.
April 9th, yeah, April 9th. is
With
your meeting date.
Right, so we're moving forward with that
Yeah,
public hearing date
Yeah.
on April 9th.
and
All in favor? Aye.
I'll take care of all the referrals for you. You know, by the law, it's gotta go to the local planning board and to the county planning board. So, right, thank you very much. And I will be back sometime soon with some zoning updates. Working on it.
Thank you for pursuing this now.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the next item is this, I'm gonna move that we go ahead and agree to the CCA electric supply extension with Direct Energy. We have an MOU. Any questions? Did we discuss this at the last meeting?
Yeah, what was the decision in terms of?
So we're not gonna go ahead and do a full like 2-year term. This is kind of just like a bridge, so it's like a shorter length of time, so we're gonna stick with our current energy supply company, and I forget how many months, but it's just like a handful of months, and the CCA administrator feels it makes sense to do this while the generation markets are a little bit unpredictable right now, but they believe that longer term or in the intermediate term, that we should see kind of a price reset, and it might be smarter to go in a little bit later versus locking in now.
Right. And wasn't there a question about 100% renewable versus?
This is their this is all locally sourced.
Yeah.
It's 100%.
Okay,
So which is what we're currently in.
right, okay, so not.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is there was some proposed legislation up with the county legislature. It was voted down. The county legislature, I think, was hoping to get feedback from the local municipalities. I've seen responses from all of my colleagues within the Mayors and Supervisors Association who are, you know, one at a time issuing resolutions. We have a draft resolution that would basically support this program. I think it's a especially unique opportunity in what we should be doing locally in terms of how probably the solution that makes the most sense for EMS services countywide is to have several different regional solutions. So in New Paltz, for instance, we've kind of already started that, where like New Paltz is serving New Paltz Rescue is serving New Paltz, it's serving Lloyd. I know that they're going to start serving Gardner in a more official capacity than just through mutual aid. It was this challenge that the New Paltz Rescue Squad has had, is that they're a stellar operation with like incredibly impressive response numbers. But last year they did over 6,000 calls and nearly 2,000 of them were mutual aid. So, you know, we need to have formal relationships, and I believe that this model would make sense, at least to help these regional rescue solutions move in that direction. And then
I think the other piece is just how the payments would be made directly to the service providers by Ulster County, and then the allocations would also be based on a blend of population and assessed value, because historically, the way things have been done in Ulster County is it's strictly on assessed value, and I think that harms a community like ours. But I don't know that we should pivot, so everything is exclusively population, some sort of hybrid, at least while we're moving towards a, more permanent solutions, this way. It's a less drastic change, but I was really pleased when I first saw that the proposal included a blend that took into account population size in addition to assessed value. So I'd like to move this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then this was brought up during our town gown this meeting this morning. Rescue Chief Matt Goodnow was talking about how he was actually in support of what has been included in the governor's fiscal year 26 budget regarding EMS services. He was saying that, other folks in that space were a little bit critical that it wasn't enough, but Chief Goodnow felt that it's better than, what we have witnessed historically. And I would tend to agree with him that sometimes you have to be supportive of incremental change and incremental improvements. So he took it upon himself to write a letter of support saying that, he was pleased that things were at least pointed in the right direction. So he offered, that we could use his template to share and publicly state that we are also pleased with, some sort of changes in terms of how EMS gets funded with support from Albany.
Should that letter be signed by his services?
Well, he did his own letter,
Right.
so this is just his template that I thought would be useful for us to sign on to. It's like Village of Ford is also supportive of what the governor is doing regarding EMS funding.
So he's approaching town, for example, Lloyd was on.
Yeah, I think he is, it's like he wrote a resolution kind of on his behalf.
Right.
I don't know whether he is actively trying to encourage others
Yeah.
to send similar letters, but he just mentioned it in the town gown meeting. He's like, hey, if anyone wants my template,
Okay.
and that resonated with me, so I asked him for his template, and
Cool.
that's why it's on the agenda.
Like that.
Okay.
That's second.
So Bill seconded sending the letter of support with the village high five. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is tentative budget. I don't have any new updates. We discussed the tentative budget. We have a public hearing set for later in March. I'm also a little bit too tired to, go into details about budgeting stuff right now. We discussed that at the last meeting. I'm gonna move on to item number 10. So the Ulster County Transportation Council is looking to update the Transportation Improvement Program and the statewide Transportation Improvement Program. So basically, there's some additional money. They thought it would make sense to make sure communities had the opportunity to provide expressions of interest that they would apply to money. And the folks at the county planning department, we're in regular talks with them, and they see how we include asks, for instance, in our DRI application last year, where we're looking for improvements that would help with vehicle and pedestrian safety at intersections. Some of our favorites are where Main Street crosses Water Street and Huguenot Street, and where Main Street crosses North and South Oakwood. So I'm actually going to talk with Brian tomorrow about what might make sense as far as a grant application for us, and the deadline would be later this month. But what I was looking to do tonight is just to ask our board to say yes, that we send an expression of interest that we would like to apply for that March 28th deadline.
We're interested.
Absolutely.
That's
Second.
seconded, all in favor? And then, the 11th item on this business agenda, I spoke with an attorney, Stu Waxman, who specializes in counseling municipalities regarding, labor issues. And, you know, one of the things that we're very interested in getting right as we pursue the, prospect of, government reorganization for the town and the village is just like understanding how we can make sure that we're supportive of, you know, the staff here at the village who are in the unions and, you know, how that would integrate with. So, our consultant and our village attorney, in one of our meetings recently thought it would make sense to, engage, an individual like Stu Waxman, who specializes in this type of work. So I asked, you know, we had a preliminary conversation with Stu this morning and our village attorney. So I asked Stu to provide us with a retainer agreement. You know, as we're trying to like understand and navigate how a reimagined New Paltz could work. So I wanna move that we go ahead and enter into that agreement with Stu's law firm.
Second.
All in favor? I'd like to move bills and claims. All in favor? PB liaison update, anything?
Sure. Number of things on the agenda last meeting. Last week, Harmony Hall on South Manheim needs to update their site plan because they're doing a retaining wall, or adding retaining wall. No, the retaining wall was not on the site plan. Westview, 14749, 151 North Chestnut was discussed, particularly issues were transportation. There was questions about water supply and the like. EFA Part 3 looks good according to the chair. It's been moved to a public hearing at the next meeting. It's going to go up to us about planning board. That's moving along. Well, Water Street was discussed. There was the developer was interested in reduction in lighting in their exterior lights. There was also discussion about EV charging stations that need to be moved to another position in their parking area. That too is going to be referred to also kind of planning board, so that would be in the second reading. So those are the three main items.
Good summary. Any ZBA points that you feel like we should highlight?
Yeah,
Here, come up so we can grab your book.
Okay, sure.
Something else.
And Bill, just a small point of correction, those items were on last month's county planning board agenda. Those ones you mentioned, so, ZBA had a busy schedule last night, they had 5 agenda items. They did 2 decisions, one for a height variance for a single family home. However, they did not grant the variance that was asked for because they decided it was more than was needed, so they more or less split the difference. It was a 5-foot variance asked for, they resolved it to allow a 3-foot variance based on their calculations of what they thought was necessary. Because the reason was given for solar capability, so they was very impressed with the work they did. 25 North Chestnut, there is a very dilapidated building on the backs in the back. They are removing it, replacing it with a building that will be a smaller footprint, but 2 stories. It's going to become 2 single-family housing units.
Duplex.
Yep, they got their approval. It went to the ZBA rather than the planning board because it's a reconstruction of an existing structure. It's a unique part of the zoning code. And then the 147, 149, 151 North Chestnut continued their discussions. And there were 2 new applications. one on Prospect Street, which was for a request for a basketball court in the side yard, and it has to be closer to the lot line than is allowed because of the location. And the other one was for conversion of a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, and
Where's that?
Lincoln Place. They needed a density variance for the 4th bedroom. They had enough lot size for 3, but not for 4. The board indicated that it was probably unlikely that they would approve it, although they set it for public hearing. However, the applicant reached out to me today, and it's probably gonna redesign to a 3-bedroom, so he doesn't have to get the variance. So that was it.
Very good, thanks.
Yep.
Do we have anything else we want to include? I want to move that we go into exec session. Regarding personnel.
You know, you hear, let me know. Oh, you guys
We're going in there.
Okay. They don't.
Yeah,
that's out.
No, the other way. We can figure ourselves out.
The one question they never ask is, okay, where's the executive session, so I know where to go if they call one? And you never thought to ask that, did you?
Wow. No, that's true. I'm not usually.
Exactly. That's that's part of how you taste the joint. Line revisions, that's very exciting. I've always been fascinated by that. That they call it, because I remember that when I was on the town planning board, that it's like, why did they call it a subdivision? That makes no sense to me.
8:53, I move that we come out of executive session. Somebody seconded it, Bill seconded it. Thank you.
Just give me 1 second.
Yep.
I move that we terminate, employee using payroll number 435 effective immediately and instruct the village staff to proceed with and whatever needs to be done regarding post-employment requirements. All in favor? Anything else? Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Can you stop the record? Cause you're the host now.